Welcome to We Learn. This is session 15 of Management and Organization Development. Today we are going to cover different topics like organizational structure analysis, organization design criteria, organization analysis process, job analysis, process analysis, business process reengineering. Apart from this, we will also cover approaches to BPR, that is business process reengineering, activities profiling, benchmarking, zero based budgeting, people analysis, and then we will discuss about that how a questionnaire is as acting as a diagnostic tool, dimensions diagnosed through questionnaire, how to construct questionnaire and the usage of questionnaire, right? So these are the topic that we are supposed to be cover in today's session. And the first topic of today's session is organization structure analysis. The fundamental aim of the analysis are to determine whether the existing structure is appropriate to the needs of the organization. The existing structure supports the mission and strategies. It provides the most logical and cost effective grouping of the functions. The structure maximizes the people's strength in the organization. So basically, when we talk about the organization structure analysis, तो हमें बहुत सारे पैरामीटर्स को, बहुत सारे मटेरियल्स के बारे में सोचना पड़ता है. दैट इज फर्स्ट वन इज नीड है. व्हाट इज द नीड एग्जैक्टली ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, व्हाट इज द मिशन, what are the strategies of the organization, and how the things can be completed in a cost effective manners, keeping in view of the objective as well as goal of the organization. So basically the criteria of applying organizational structure analysis is to maximize the people's strength in the organization and to reduce the cost, or ultimately we can say to increase the people's strength and to reduce the cost is a basic goal of organizational structure analysis, keeping in view missions, strategies, needs of the existing structure in mind, right? Organization design criteria. An organization design criteria is a basic principle or characteristics of an organization which help it to achieve its strategic objective and meet its critical success factor. एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के टारगेट्स को पूरा करने के लिए वी हैव टू बिल्ड सम क्रिटिकल सक्सेस फैक्टर which will ensure the implementation of the strategies so that the objectives of the organization can be achieved. Organizational analysis process. In this regard, there are lots of things that need to be covered. The first one is list the criteria. When we have to apply the organization analysis, then the process is like that. List the criteria on which analysis is to be conducted. Then rate the criteria as currently perceived. After that, we need to cover the estimation, that is estimate the impact on strategy. Next is rate the impact on previously identified critical success factor. Critical success factor, in short, it is called as a CSF. Calculate current rating, strategic impact, number of time it relates to the critical success factor. Then rank the criteria based on to the total score. In this way, we can find out the criteria on which the analysis is to be conducted. Next term that we are going to cover is job analysis. Job analysis is an important part of organization analysis. In particular, jobs should be reviewed to determine any overlaps in the task and accountabilities, both vertically with subordinate or superiors and horizontally with colleagues across the organization structure. So job analysis is most important part in the organizational analysis, right? Just to ensure that there should not be any kind of overlaps, चाहे वो vertical level पर हो या horizontal level पे हो. जॉब पार्ट पे ओवरलैपिंग्स नहीं होनी चाहिए इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन स्ट्रक्चर. कहाँ पर ओवरलैपिंग नहीं होनी चाहिए? ऑर्गेनाइजेशन स्ट्रक्चर्स में. Now let's discuss about the process analysis. When we talk about the process analysis, it means a review of organization structure is an essential component of improving the effectiveness of an organization. एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की इफेक्टिवनेस को इम्प्रूव करने के लिए we should have a review of the organization structure. It is also vital to examine the process by which activities are carried out and managed. Many of these will cut across functional or departmental boundaries, and it is important, therefore, to ensure that there is effective management horizontally within the organization. This may often be seen, for example, in the shape of project teams composed of people from a range of disciplines brought together to achieve one specific objective or program. Business process reengineering. Next topic that we are going to cover is business process reengineering. This relatively new approach developed by Davenport and Hammer and Champy in the year 1993, which is also called as a business process improvement or value chain analysis, reviews the overall horizontal workflow and process in the organization, not just to improve them but to fundamentally re-examine them. Right? So re-examination of the basic process of the organization, it comes under the business process re-engineering. There are different approaches to the BPR, that is business process re-engineering. First is examine the process that are critical to the success of the organization. Determine those processes which are priorities in terms of giving the company competitive advantage. Next is determines the type of change or new investment required to ensure the maximum efficiency and effectiveness of these processes. Determines what changes to aspects of the company's strategies and structure may be necessary. Another approach to business process reengineering involves the review of managerial accountabilities and redefining jobs as required, ensuring that the process can be optimized where possible. Next is activity profiling. Activity profiling is a methodology that is being developed by Price Waterhouse Urchich to analyze the relative contribution made by different activities to the achievement of organization objective. In these analyses, essential activities and the cost of those activities including manpower cost, resource usage, opportunity cost and so on, as well as any cash outlay is compared and ratios produced. From this information, it is possible to compare the cost of the activity with the contribution that activity makes towards the achievement of core objective. Next is benchmarking. Benchmarking is a process of comparing the performance level and associated business practices and the process of organization with others to enable that organization to set performance targets of its own that are competitive with those others. So performance level को compare करने के लिए we use the process benchmarking. This can also include adopting, where possible, those working methods that will help in the achievement of these targets. The benchmarking process is also used to compare performance and process internally. Next is zero-based budgeting. There has always been a tendency in large organizations to base the figures for the current year's budget on what was spent in the previous year, with an allowance for inflation. The zero-based budgeting, in short it is called ZBB, the zero-based budgeting approach required that every activity with a separate budget head must first of all justify its existence and then indicate that what level of spending is required to meet likely needs. Zero-based budgeting work on a button-up basis Zero based Zero based budgeting works on a bottom up basis with individual budget holders having to justify their budget projections and each activity being ranked according to the priority. The budget projections are then reviewed at different levels in the organization. Finally, top level decision may be made about priorities and service provision. Another important thing is people analysis. While review of the organization frequently concentrate on the structure and process, it is vital to review the organization's human resources as they will make the structure and process work. So efficient and well motivated employees will overcome the deficiency of poor structure and process. While the best structure and process will not work without employees' full cooperation. So employees must be fully motivated for the work. That then only the efficiency can be extracted out of them. Right? Now let us learn that how questionnaires is acting as a diagnostic tool. Questionnaire, Questionnaires, interviews, workshop, and task forces are the most frequently used methods of organizational diagnosis in India. They are used separately or in combinations. कभी कभी हम डायग्नोसिस करने के लिए इंटरव्यूज बेसिकली यूज़ करते हैं, क्वेश्चनरीज करते हैं, वर्कशॉप्स कंडक्ट करते हैं, टास्क फोर्सेस अप्लाई करते हैं जस्ट फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ डायग्नोसिस. Of the four questionnaires, there are many commonly used as they could be used with ease and by person inside the organization. Questionnaires को यूज़ करना बहुत आसान होता है. Anybody inside the organization can use it very frequently. There are a number of fairly standardized questionnaire for organization diagnosis. It is also easy to develop questionnaire to suit each organizational requirements. There are some dimensions which should be diagnosed through questionnaire. What are these dimensions? So the answer of this particular question is, first is general organizational health, organizational culture, motivational climate, role oriented variables, HRD climate, leadership and supervisory style, job satisfaction, work motivation and work commitment, specific variables. All these are the things that comes under the important dimensions that is related with that of the questionnaires. We can have some examples of the questionnaires like organizational climate questionnaire, human resource development climate questionnaires could be the examples. Now let us learn how to construct questionnaires. Questionnaires for the organizational diagnosis normally measures the perception of the employees or participant in an organization. एक पर्टिकुलर एम्प्लॉय का क्या व्यू पॉइंट है, क्या उसकी परसेप्शन है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. दिस इज बीइंग एनालाइज्ड in terms of questionnaires. So it is the aggregate of these perception that indicate the organization's strength and shortcomings. The employees, participant of an organization sometimes are in a good position to provide dimensions, variables on which questionnaires can be framed. For example, to diagnose the organization health of an agricultural university, a group of scientists of that university were assembled and requested to make some statements about what in their opinion is good and bad in the university. All these statements were collected, edited, and a questionnaire was made. Subsequently, it was administered to all the scientists in that university. Thus, interviews, group discussions, meetings, workshop help in developing the questionnaires. Another form of developing a questionnaire is to sample test any standardized questionnaire on a group of respondents. The respondent could be asked to indicate variables, items that should be used for the diagnosis. Now, while preparing a questionnaire, Structured questionnaires are more easy to analyze data and for providing the statistical information. Now, usage of questionnaire. Since organization diagnosis questionnaires measure perception of the employees, and in giving their perception, employees are giving sensitive data, care should be taken to prevent distortions in the data collection. So employee must may distort data depending on their perception of those who collect the data and the purpose for which the data are being collected. Now let us learn the usage or usefulness of the questionnaire. What is questionnaire? So the answer of this particular question is questionnaire is a very useful diagnostic tool. There are several questionnaires developed by organizational scientists in our country that are useful for the diagnostic purpose. These questionnaires could be used with appropriate modifications to suit the diagnostic needs of each organization. It is advisable to develop organizational specific questionnaires for diagnosing problem unique to the organization. Participative methods of developing questionnaire enhances the quality of questionnaire through increasing the organizational relevance of the item. Survey, feedback, maintaining organizational health profiles, designing other intervention are some of the useful purposes that is being served by the questionnaires. Next is comparative data. Comparative data may be available if standardized questionnaires are used for general diagnosis purpose. So before we end, there's a there are two questions for you. First one is how to construct questionnaire for an organization. You can take any example like IBM, Tisco, SCL, PCDI, right? For constructing the questionnaires. Next is write brief note on benchmarking. We have already discussed that to compare to measure the performance, benchmarking is basically used. You have to write a brief note on that with proper example that where you will apply this benchmarking. And people analysis. Next brief note you have to write on the people analysis. How people analysis helps in the organization development and for the better management of the organization. So with this we are going to finish this session. Thank you.